Welcome into the Inside Carolina podcast on the Beat Live on Inside Carolina's YouTube channel. Appreciate everybody joining us. We're sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. All right, guys. Adam, I'm going to start with you first because it seems like you brought some drama with you when you came to Inside Carolina. I mean, you were supposed to bring a defense. You were supposed to bring a defense from Burlington.
I didn't know that was in the contract.
That was in the contract. You didn't read it. You got to read the contract. Seriously. Have we seen anything like we saw Saturday? And let's talk about what needs to change for it to get better. Adam, I'll let you try to piece it together first.
I mean, we could go a whole hour on this, couldn't we? Everything needs to get better. I mean, in terms of, I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that. I mean, you remember the ECU game where Lincoln Riley dropped 70. It was Ruff and McNeil's team, and Lincoln Riley's offense dropped 70 on UNC back in the day. That was obviously a loss. What most points Carolina's ever given up and won a game. Most points Carolina's ever allowed in a fourth quarter, ever. Most points Gene Chizik has ever allowed in a quarter, he said. Gene talked to us the other day I was just listening to him as I was going back through the transcription, 21 minutes, and I was thinking, we talked to Tony Grimes today. We talked to Kamen Rucker today. We talked to Cam Kelly today. We talked to Gene yesterday. Everyone says the right things. Everyone has all the right things to say. We're gonna get to work. We're gonna fix this. Gene was saying, there's absolutely no one who's not bought in. Tony Grimes was saying everyone is supremely confident. And but yeah, that was a train wreck in the fourth quarter. It was a hard one. I mean, Carolina took a 41-21 lead into the fourth quarter. It kind of looked like they might, walk the dog on them there to finish the game. And then it just went all sorts of sideways. It's got to be a Tweetsy Railroad reference here I'm not making.
Oh, absolutely. Vip, you were down there on the sidelines for most of it. Perfect view of what was going on. I mean, you and I thought it was over after they stopped the first 2-point conversion. But in talking and listening to Chizik, listening to Mac, I mean, Mac's like, we won. That's the number one thing. And he's right. But what was concerning to me, and I want your take, and you talked to EJ and Mike and folks that didn't listen, need to go back and listen to that. But there's too much talent on this team for them to look as bad as they did. And it wasn't even as bad as a collective bad. It was terrible collectively, but there was a lot of bad individual plays mixed in there. Just after sort of absorbing it for 3 days now and listening to everything post-mortem, where are we? I mean, is it fixable?
Yeah, you mentioned how we thought the game was over after that first 2-point conversion. I thought it was over at that point. Was basically tweeting it out at that point. The game's over. Carolina survives. Then Bryson Nesbitt returns the kick, and there's 30 seconds left. And with the way the defense was playing, I don't think anybody in that building thought that Carolina's defense was going to get a stop and that this game was inevitably going to go to overtime. And then if it goes to overtime, let the best team win. That's the feeling I got. And we could say that we've never seen anything quite like that game before, but this is probably coming up on about the 10th year where we've seen this formula where Carolina has an offense that's ready to contend for a conference title and a defense that is nowhere even close. I think people bought into a lot of the things that the coaches were saying in the preseason and then we had like limited chances to see the team in practice. Adam, you could speak from what you've seen in practice in the times we were allowed to go there. The defense has never looked this bad. It's never been this jarring. And I think that's probably what the coaches are seeing on an everyday basis, that it's a defense that is not getting gashed, and then they're getting to the game day, and once everything's going live, there's some kind of disconnect going on. And you could see the article that Greg posted today about Carolina's defense, where by all reports, all sources, Jay Bateman was going to stay as Carolina's defensive coordinator. He said, I want an entirely new defensive staff. I think I need a defensive staff to take the defense to where everybody kind of wants Carolina to go. Mac Brown said no to that, wanted to keep his guys. Jay Bateman leaves. Coach Chizik comes in. All the defensive coaches stay the same, and you're seeing a defense that's worse now. And I think it's a lot of people looking around in the building, not sure what's going on and how to fix it. So I think that's the most concerning part, because you're hearing all the players, we're going to get back to work, we're embarrassed, this leaves a bad taste in our mouth, but we're on year 4 now of getting no answers and having a defense that looks even somewhat comparable to an offense that it's a top 25 offense every year.
Yeah, I mean, I saw somebody said they never gave Sam Howell a defense. They've got to figure out how to give Drake Maye one. You know, you can read between the lines with what's going on here, but Adam, just looking at it on its face, I mean, if you change the top and it's still the same, the players have gotten better. Let me get your take and your opinion. You've been inside this for many years. I'm going to put you on the spot. I mean, guys say the right things. And Noah Taylor made a great play in that game, but Kamen Rucker saved Carolina's butt because he scores the 2-point conversion if Kamen Rucker doesn't clean it up, because he's about to stick the ball out. So you got one player standing up and making one play and saving I mean, I wouldn't even be able to imagine the Inside Carolina meltdown. But where are we, in your opinion? I mean, this cannot continue. It cannot continue. Georgia State on Saturday, and then Notre Dame coming to town in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, no, I feel like I'm going to have to be in a point counterpoint here. So am I going to try to have to take the positives while, Vip rips them? That's fine with me. So we have a nice debate. I'm cool.
Good cop, bad cop.
You're right. Like, I mean, we can't just all agree here. That's like, the Skip Bayless and Stephen A, were they always agreeing? People turn the channel. No, well, I was just to clarify what you were saying, Tommy. I mean, we have heard a lot about how when things went so wrong and it was complete chaos, and Gene Chizik used the word implosion and a perfect storm also, that still, when the game was on the line and a play had to be made, a play was made. And what you were saying, if Kamen Rucker hadn't been there, Noah Taylor did play it right too. I don't know if Vip knows, the correct terminology. They say he surfed. He surfed down the line, I guess, and was able to, corral Chase Bryce, slow him down. And then, as Cedric Gray said, Kamen Rucker came and put the nail in the coffin there. And Rucker was kind of hilarious today, talking about how he wasn't sure if he should celebrate or not, because he knew Bryce was trying to stick the ball out, and he was just praying that, he hadn't gotten the ball across the goal line on that 2-point conversion. How about the 2-point conversion with 31 seconds left? I mean, that was to take the lead, and the play was open. And, I think, it was Deshaun Davis, who's App State's smallest receiver at like 5'9". I mean, Bryce just overthrew him. I don't know if Davis didn't time his jump right, but like that was just a nightmare waiting to happen right there. It seemed like that ball was in the air forever. Bryce put a little air under it. UNC was lucky there. And then the next thing you know, Bryson Nesbitt's going down the sideline. And people are pouring off the sideline. When Vip was saying with however much time it was that no one believed Carolina's defense could stop them, we know what helped App in that situation was the unsportsmanlike penalty. The 15-yarder got him going in the right direction again. But, I mean, okay, if we'll do point counterpoint, what I would say to what you asked, Tommy, is, I mean, what they're all saying over at the building is that there's only, we're 2 games into this thing, and UNC is 2-0. They haven't lost a game. Granted, I know you played an FCS team and a group of 5 team, and got another group of 5 on the road this week. But, yeah, I mean, it's so funny if you think about what we've been talking about like 2-3 weeks ago, how there's going to be a first-time starter at quarterback, a whole bunch of young guys at receiver and running back, that Carolina might have to lean on their defense for a while. Yeah, I mean, here we are a couple weeks later. It's completely flipped on its head.
Yeah, I have two stats to underline the chaos that we saw on Saturday. 10 total touchdowns were scored in the fourth quarter between North Carolina and App State. That's 62 total points scored, the most in a fourth quarter in FBS history. So, Adam, it's not just UNC history. This is FBS football history. And then the second of the two stats, the 124 points scored were the most ever in a Tar Heel football game. So, again, we saw history. I have a question as well. This one is from our friend Slagle. We've talked about the chaos, the defense. So where do you start? Where would you kind of pinpoint this needs to change? This is the first thing that needs to happen defensively for North Carolina to get back on the right track.
You can take that first, Vip.
It's a big question because I think they struggle kind of at all three levels. But if I have to pick one, it would be the corners because it just doesn't look like the corners can cover anything. Tony Grimes has his moments. He's in position a lot. Should have had that one interception. He's playing 88 snaps with somebody like Storm Duck, I don't want to really try to make assumptions, but he just doesn't look like he's fully healthy. You've seen two plays that Jason Staples has highlighted in back-to-back weeks where he's playing 5 yards off a receiver. He's losing at the line. He's getting outrun. He's in the trail chase position for the entire part, and he's still playing 88 snaps. Somebody like Legend Cavazos comes in the that like third and long package with Will Hardy and Chase Bryce, no fear going after somebody like Legend Cavazos coming into the game. They get 41 yards. Sets up the next play is I think the next play was the tackle that Ra Dilworth missed. But it's just the corners. The corners between Musa in week 0 and Chase Bryce in week 1, it doesn't look like any quarterbacks have any fear going up against UNC's corners. They think they're going to get the matchups they want on the outside. If they're lined up in the slot, they think they could just outrun everybody. And the quarterbacks, a lot of the throws, the quarterbacks are putting them right on the money, kind of like Coach Chizik said. But you look at what Musa does in week 1 against Jackson State, another FCS team, and he looks like a completely different quarterback. Somebody on the board made me laugh when they said Musa looks like a quarterback that plays on Sundays. And since the game was on Sunday yesterday, they were like, I guess you guys were right. He is a Sunday quarterback. But that's about the only sense that he's a Sunday quarterback. So for me, it would be the corners.
Well, here's the issue, and Adam, and you can take it from here.
Let me add to what Vip just said, if you don't mind, Tommy. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
no.
Yeah, like I agree on the Storm Duck assessment about possibly, not looking fully healthy. And I mean, Tony Grimes was coming off a concussion. He told us today. I asked the question today. You went out 8. I think he played 8 plays against Florida A&M. He gets dinged up. He's gone. Early in the week last week, the feeling was he wasn't going to be able to play against App, and then he progressed and was able to play against App. And I just asked him a question today: how did your recovery go? Were you surprised at how quickly your recovery went? And he actually said the words, "Yeah, I got through my concussion protocol." So there you go. It was a concussion on Grimes, which it looked like we all knew. By the way, he tried to make that tackle against Florida A&M, but you got Tony Grimes coming off a concussion. You got Storm Duck coming off 2 years worth of injuries. I'm not sure where Dante Balfour was Saturday. But that's just to add to what Vip was saying about the corners. I mean, you might have had 2 guys at less than their best, just in terms of health wise.
So, and that sort of leads me back to where I was going is you got to get pressure on the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Chase Bryce struggles with pressure. When Duke couldn't block anybody last year, he stunk. Musa last week or against Carolina looked great with no pressure. Against Jackson State, they sent people after him all day. I know he's a different level. He stunk. that's my issue with this defense is if you got struggles at corner, whether they're injured or concussed or just not good enough, you got issues sometimes at linebacker missing tackles. Vip, where's the pressure from Chizik? I know Chizik's MO is I know what he plays, and Jason's talked about it a ton on these podcasts, as have we all. But at some point, and maybe it happens this week against Georgia State, you got to change things up because they're going to get cooked. Any college quarterback can make those throws, and Chase Bryce was on. That throw he made to make it 55, 56, right there in front of us, that little corner route, it was a dime. And then the one to get him in the 60s, it was another dime. But he's doing it with nobody in his face. Drake Maye's having to do it with guys draped all over him. Vip, do you think there's any chance that Chizik changes his way here and starts to manufacture some pressure because the front four are not getting it for whatever reason?
I think there were some instances where Chizik was more willing to dial up the pressure. Like anytime Dilworth is in the game, Ra's not in there to cover people. He's not in there to be in run support. He's almost there exclusively to be a pass rush guy. And I think App State caught Carolina a couple of times in those 3rd and long situations. Everybody and their moms are thinking this is going to be a pass year, and they catch you with a draw. They catch you with some kind of action to counter the personnel that you're bringing into the game. So as a result, I think Carolina goes back to the more base packages that they have and just trying to send 4, and it's really not working sending 4. I think you're going to need to see somebody like Kamon Ruckermore, who's I think Carolina's most consistent guy getting pressure on the quarterback, even though you look at him and he really shouldn't be beating tackles with his body, but he's a hard over height guy and just always finds always finds a way to get to the quarterback. But I don't think you're going to see like these exotic blitz packages, but you do have some situations where you will see some guys like Dilworth used as exclusively as pass rushers.
Let's talk about how much of this is on the players themselves, Adam, to get it in gear a little bit. Somebody on the chat said, "I'd love to see you guys play football." Well, Vip did. He was on the team under this defensive staff. But another guy that played pretty good in his time was Julius Peppers, and he had something to say on Twitter about the players need to stand up. Adam, at what point is that a thing that needs to really occur? Guys need to get, like Mac basically said, grow up and act like you've been there before. But not only that, give effort every play, every second of every play, kind of like Des Evans did. He didn't play great, but he was hustling, and Kamen Rucker does seemingly every time he's on the field. Where are we at in that sort of evolution of what's going on here?
Just quickly to answer my man Jack, who's asking a question over here about, for the love of God, we have asked about Conley. JQ Conley, I mean, he tore his ACL at the end of November against Wofford, the regular season finale at home. I think the last update we got on him was just before the season opener. So 2 weeks ago? I mean, that's a 10-month injury. I don't know if Vip can speak more clearly to that, but I think, it's a 10-month injury now. Guys can usually get back out there. So I think October would be the hopeful for Conley. I don't know if they've actually given us a timeline, but that's when you tear the ACL. I mean, you're not going to be back at the end of one season. You're not going to be back for the start of the next season. But I don't know. What are you talking about, Tommy? Are we going to talk about the offense at all? Like, what are we going to do?
Not yet. We'll get to the offense because there's a ton to talk about. But I'm talking about these players.
Right.
Have got to step up. And I'll go a step further with that. You sort of get what you allow. To Vip's point, he said guys were making plays, not good plays, and they were playing 88 snaps or whatever. I believe Ohio State safety, and I know Ohio State's a different talent level, and I can't call his name. He bombed the first play and got burnt on the first play of the game against Notre Dame, and he didn't see the field the rest of the game and sat. That's how somebody asked on the thread on the message board, how much is talent in the bench as a motivator? What do you think, Adam? Putting you on the spot again.
Well, that's totally fine. Yeah, I mean, well, they say, if you're listening to Mac and Gene, they say they want to play more guys. They were saying that. Gene said that. Gene said it's a priority to get more guys on the field. So, I don't know what you're going to do there. I think when we went back to a couple questions ago, I mean, I think when Vip was trying to pick between the front four or the corners or the secondary, I am just surprised, quite frankly, to my naked eye, of how mediocre the front four has looked. Or I don't know if that's mediocre is the right word, but I expected more, I guess. Maybe I did drink the Kool-Aid that they were telling me, or feeding me. But I expected more out of the front four. Now, again, this was a game in Boone where the Tar Heels trailed 21-7, and then for 32 minutes, I think it was 32 minutes of game time, they did not allow a point. So I don't know, like it was, they got 4 straight stops, and that allowed Drake Maye and the offense to come back and to go from losing 21-7 to winning 41-21. It was 34 unanswered points that Carolina reeled off. And then obviously it just, it went off the rails in the fourth quarter. But I don't know, I do think that the Georgia State game, I think we're going to see an improved defense. I think Carolina's going to play well Saturday. I mean, maybe I'm nuts, but that's what I think. I think the Georgia State, the way they're kind of an RPO team, run a heavy team. I don't think we're going to see 376 passing yards and 6 passing touchdowns from the opposing quarterback this Saturday. But if we do, it could be a really bad scene.
Yeah, I think the most worrying thing is that Carolina shuts out App for that 31-minute stretch. It's the defense does deserve a bit of credit for allowing Carolina to get back in the game, and the only reason they had to get back in the game was they scored the first 3 possessions that they were on the field. But then I can't remember who it was in the post-game interviews where they was like, yeah, we kind of just got a bit too complacent on the defense, and it's like, this is all stuff that was supposed to be addressed in the offseason. Like, how is a team that's 1-0 in a hostile environment in a game that everybody has almost predicted you to lose, saying that a team has gotten complacent when it's like this team, it's all been about, proving that you guys are a lot better than a lot of people say you are. Like, they came in overhyped last year, and this was kind of their chance all offseason, proving that, that they do belong at the ACC title level. And then you have a guy week 2 saying that the defense kind of got complacent. I think that was probably the most disheartening thing that I heard about the defense. And then, they started the game bad, and it was a fourth quarter from hell.
Mac pointed out that, just to add to that, Mac pointed out, Cedric Gray gets the interception late in the third quarter. And a lot of things are going right for Carolina's defense. Carolina's got a short field in that situation. And he said he looked up and they were all celebrating. The defense was all celebrating with the crowd. That was something that Mac was underlining with a fine point, is like, look, we got an interception in that situation. We shouldn't be all over there partying, with the crowd. We should get off the field and, let the offense get after it. So anyway.
Yeah, and you saw that too with the Bryson Nesbitt return, where it's like, I think the most encouraging thing for North Carolina is that they won this game, because it's moments like this where you realize what it really takes to get over the hump and go back in the locker room and celebrate. Like, I have no problem with the dancing after a game like that, because it's really hard to win at the college level. And I think when you do win a game like this, you deserve all the moments to celebrate. But I think the more times North Carolina can win close games, the more you would see less and less of the excessive celebrations. And it's like act like you act like you've been there before, but on the field. Because once you're in the locker room, celebrate, go crazy. The players work too hard to not enjoy those moments.
I think that it was just a brief little window into what ended up happening in the fourth quarter. I think they thought it was over, or like we're kind of like stepping on their throats here. We got like we stop after stop, and here we have got a pick, and we have a short field. And I think that if you go back and look at that kind of was where it started to tail off the deep end.
Very similar to the reaction after the field goal in Raleigh last November.
That's a good point.
But to Truth Seeker 23's point, and this was a great point, and we've talked about this earlier in the season. The schedule is ideal to get this mess out of them. Now, will they? We'll see. But they got to win against Florida A&M. They got to win at App. They've got to learn, and they learned. And to Vip's point, they learned and still got to win, which they're extremely lucky to do it. So maybe to flip switches between these two games. To Drew Krebs' point, Carolina's playing an App because they set the schedule like that. They did a 2-for-1 with App, and they had to go take the one, and the second of two will be next year. And they just don't have the money or won't spend the money to pay G5 teams to come to Keenan Stadium all the time. SEC can do that. It's just like Jason said in the day after. Alabama's not going to Troy. Not happening. But Troy will come to Alabama, every year for $1 million, and that's how it works. I don't have a problem with them playing the App. It was awesome up there. It was a great environment. Give me that college football environment every Saturday in Chapel Hill, and it'll be just the greatest thing ever. I mean, it was a fun time. Carolina got the win, and they've got to learn from it.
I was going to say the only time you'll see Nick Saban in Troy is if there's a 5-star recruit that lives there.
Really, and he's over there getting some nana pudding or something. and before I get off the defense, Vip thought the game was over and almost pulled me over the rail onto the field there. Oh, and something that I wanted to say is how hot
I don't know if I pulled you over or if it was your gravity that was pulling you over.
The dude beside me, it was an App State guy, and he had a cowgirl girlfriend, and I thought he went over. I saw the bottom of his feet hanging over the rail. It was hilarious.
No one was focused. I mean, that's what no one
act like you've been there, yeah.
But and that's the point. These guys haven't.
Yep.
This defense hasn't, and they were there for 2 quarters. Jason says, Apps shot themselves in the foot more so than Carolina stopped them. But the bottom line is they were effective for those 2 quarters, and it's not like Gene Chizik was calling something different. So it's on the players and the coaching staff to get it worked out. Georgia State may be an elixir. We'll find out. I know one team that won't be, and it'll be Notre Dame. Let's take a break. Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. They're sponsors of this podcast. I'll even mention Blue Shark Vodka. They're sponsors as well. And also shout out to Johnny T-Shirt for their 10% off for Inside Carolina Premium subscribers. Alumni owned and operated. Take care of them on Franklin Street. They take care of us all the time. Go see them or order it online and get your stuff. National Guys Pay the Bills on the audio version. On the Beat Live. It's about 9:30 in the East. We'll be right back. All right, boys, back with On the Beat Live, 9:28 Eastern Time. Shout out to the few hundred folks that are watching us on YouTube Live. Adam, let's talk about this guy, this quarterback, and we've talked about him a lot. And I want to talk about him as in not in the past, but what's coming. I mean, he is good. Some of those throws he made, and that's one thing about sitting in an end zone that I really love, is you can really see the windows that he's throwing into. Y'all talked to him today. What did he have to say after he'd had an opportunity to marinate on his performance at App? Because I thought he was, other than the fumble, just fantastic.
I'm loving the comments over here. Like my guy Andrew's asking if Ross is working the dog at the door at Pantana Bob's. There we go. P Bob's.
It wouldn't surprise me.
He had a previous engagement, I was told. Hey,
yeah,
these comments. I love the comments over here. You people are great. Drake Maye. Okay, I will talk about him for the next 35 minutes. I mean, he's great. I mean, we played 2 games. I don't know if anybody saw. I wrote a very glowing day after column about him. I mean, good Lord, man. Someone asked a question over here. Do you think Carolina could win a shootout with Notre Dame? Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't know if they could stop Notre Dame, but yeah. I mean, who's stopping Drake Maye? I mean, I guess we're going to see as the season goes on, obviously, and people, dig into what he's doing and get a better look at him. But I mean, think about this. UNC doesn't have Josh Downs. They obviously didn't have Antoine Green. You've got just a bunch of, with the exception of Kamari Morales and DJ Jones, you got nothing but just freshmen and sophomores running around out there. That's it. With a freshman quarterback who's starting his second game and playing his first game on the road. Oh, by the way, UNC hasn't won a road game since December of 2020. Oh, by the way, App is 42-7 in Boone. And, like they have like the 5th best home record in the FBS or something over the last 5 years. I mean, Drake Maye is the truth. You saw the look on Sam Howell's face, right? Like, I mean, and it's interesting. One of the things I asked him today was coming out of the Florida A&M game, we talked about, wow, this is a great debut. We talked to Phil Longo. We talked to Drake. We know all the things you did great. What were some of the things that you wanted to work on? And they both quickly said footwork coming out of FAMU. They thought maybe his feet were a little jittery. I thought just watching, I'm sure Vip can break it down better than I can, but I thought watching it that, the subtle sliding in the pocket, there's a couple, he moved a couple ways to just avoid some pressure. The sidearm throw one time. I mean, they were just like subtle movements that he made that spoke to exactly what they were talking about coming out of Florida A&M. I asked him about it today, and he's like, yeah, I was pretty pleased with my footwork, which is a big admission from him because he's a perfectionist nitpicker. But, I mean, good Lord, Kobe Paysauer had 1 career catch. He had 8 catches for 92 yards the other day. I mean, that offense looks great. I know Omarion Hampton didn't do much, but, the speed of Petaway, the power of Caleb Hood, and Drake doesn't mind taking a hit. That's another thing I might try to write about this week is I asked him if he feels different on Sundays when he wakes up now. Like, last year, Sam Howell's taking every snap. And he said, yeah, his back was hurting and his legs were hurting a little bit this Sunday when he woke up.
Vip, I mean, the guy makes throws. The question is, somebody asked, is it transferable to a big-time P5 game? I mean, that's the ultimate question, right? He handled the pressure against App, and App got pretty consistent pressure on him. Granted, it'll be a little bit different when it's a front line or defensive line and linebackers like Notre Dame. But do you think watching him that it's really it'll just be the same? Other more talented players, but the windows he's putting the ball in, I don't think it matters who's defending those receivers. And the receivers are doing great at getting open and making the catches.
Yeah, the first real test for this Carolina offense is going to be that Notre Dame game where they're going to be going up against athletes that are comparable or even better than they are. We saw that last year when North Carolina went to Notre Dame, and it was a great offense, but when they're going up against that kind of size and speed, a lot of things don't fly. But when it comes to Drake Maye specifically, I think his skills are transferable. I'm not too concerned about him going up against a team like Notre Dame. I'm concerned about Carolina's offensive line going up against a team like Notre Dame. And as a result, that can make it a lot tougher for Drake. But in terms of like what Drake does, he does a great job of identifying pressure. He does a great job of evenly distributing the ball to where if somebody in comparison, like last year, almost 80% of Sam Howell's passes were going to Josh Downs. When Drake Maye is lined up, defenses have no idea where he's going. Kobe Paysauer has 8 receptions. J.J. Jones has 4 receptions. Nesbitt 3. DJ Jones 2 out of the backfield. Gavin Blackwell 1. But Blackwell also had a pretty big pass interference. I'm pretty sure it was Blackwell who drew the pass interference. You look at the week before against Florida A&M, and it's like it's the same thing. And the thing that I really like about Drake that maybe I didn't know that he had in his bag is his ability as a runner. I think he has you can go to him in design runs, but with his footwork, he also has the timing down to know when to give up on a play and when to go get yards. Because a lot of the times in the fourth quarter, I'm pretty sure App was doing a lot better job of covering the receivers and making a lot of the windows tighter, but they could not contain Drake when Drake broke the pocket, and Drake's legs were a big reason for a lot of that clock getting chewed up towards the end.
Think about this, just to quickly jump on that. He completed passes to 10 different guys against Florida A&M. And then Saturday at App, if you take away the Nesbitt special teams touchdown, UNC scored 7 touchdowns and 7 different guys scored them. I mean, like everybody is involved right now, at least through two weeks. I mean, 7 different guys. So go ahead, Johnny.
John, let me make a comment about the transferable stuff. And to Vip's point and your point, Adam, there, what did Michael Carter and Javonte Williams do against Notre Dame in Kenan Stadium in 19?
Not much.
Nothing.
I'm guessing not a whole lot because I can't
remember.
No, they got
and
the lines got manhandled.
Therein lies the rub, is how good Carolina's offensive line can hold up against Notre Dame. I think the receivers are good enough to get open, and obviously Drake Maye is good enough to make plays. And again, the windows that he puts the balls in, but can the line hold up? That'll be the big test. Go ahead, John B.
Yeah, to build on that point, I think the way that the schedule has set up, it was really imperative, though, that UNC found someone who could compete in that Notre Dame game and put their best foot forward. It's a little bit of revisionist history, but just as far as 2 weeks ago, there was a big question mark at quarterback for North Carolina. Depending on who you talk to after the spring, Jacoby was in the lead perhaps for the starting quarterback job. So it's credit to the staff and to UNC's talent evaluators to put Drake Maye in that position to be the starting quarterback. He's going to have these 3 games to work out some of the kinks, to get some experience, and then he's going to go kind of put UNC's offense in the best position it can be against Notre Dame. So I think it's important to remind ourselves that like the goal of these 3 games for UNC's offense was to find that quarterback. They've done that. They found the quarterback. It's Drake Maye. Now just let him loose against Notre Dame and see what happens.
Yeah, 80% of offense in football is, do I have a quarterback? And North Carolina left Boone with the resounding answer of yes, they do have a quarterback, and he is pretty good.
Yeah, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have much. I mean, there's been teams that have won without a quarterback, but it's like all-time defenses, like elite defenses. And let's talk about going into this Georgia State game, and I want to get both of y'all's take on this. Vip, you from a former guy that's been in these locker rooms, and Adam, you like me, you've covered a lot of it. What are the 2 coaching staff saying to the players, the defensive coaching staff and the offensive coaching staff? Because like I wrote in the Letterman's article, or the title, Tale of Two Sides of the Ball, but it's one team going down to Atlanta. Adam, I'm going to let you be first here. If you're Longo, what are you telling your guys? Just more of the same? And if you're Chiswick, what are you telling your guys? I mean, that is, I think the offense can be better. The defense has to be better. So where's coming from the coaching staff here?
If you're Phil Longo, just patting him on the back. Good job, guys. Let's keep it going. Like Ross and I actually did a video, a highly critically acclaimed videos that we do on Monday, with no rehearsal, obviously. But that, I mean, when we talked to the coordinators on Monday, it couldn't have been more of a contrast, obviously, because you got Phil Longo rolling in off 56 points and 63 points, and Gene Chizik rolling in, exactly the polar opposite, obviously. But I mean, heck, if you're Phil Longo, why would you mess with a thing? He had an interesting comment. We were asking him this week about the running back rotation, because they said we're going to try to play the hot hand. And as we all saw, DJ Jones started the opener. Omarion Hampton started Saturday, but then, he was kind of out of the mix, and Petaway and, Jones and Caleb Hood were in the mix. And he made a comment, it's almost like you have a whole bunch of toys to play with, when he was talking about Carolina's skill positions, which I think we all would agree with that. But, I mean, if you listen to Gene, he says, we know what we got to get fixed. We've addressed it. We have accountability Sunday where everybody's held accountable. And now it's just a matter of going out there on the field and doing it. So, I mean, these from a offense defense, it couldn't be any more different. But to go back to the schedule, I mean, like at my old place, I was writing about this when the schedule came out. I've been writing about this for months now. Like the schedule was always going to allow Carolina to try to settle in. You had the opportunity to settle in. You didn't have an opener in Blacksburg like you did last season. You were able to play the FCS. You got the 2 group of 5s. You should be 3-0 coming out of the first 3 weeks. Then you got a bye week, and you should be all systems go for Notre Dame if things play out the way you would think they would play out. But the coordinators, I mean, geez, Louise, two vastly opposite things happening there.
How about Phil Longo? When does Phil Longo get to take his victory lap? Because he has done this now for 4 straight seasons in Chapel Hill. It's a little bit like the quote Tony Stark building something with a box of scraps. I mean, he's taking freshmen and sophomores, as we've talked about, in a quarterback in his second start, and he kept this basically football season alive. Gene Chizik was talking about there were lots of thank yous, perhaps even a kiss provided from Chizik to Longo for saving the season. So I think we should also mention in all of this talk, Phil Longo deserves a humongous accolades for putting together another masterful offensive performance for the Tar Heels.
And he's trying to figure it out too, because Omarion Hampton and George Petaway haven't played a college game. They were just in high school, like he's trying to figure out what he has, he knows what these guys look like in practice and what they're supposed to be. And you got Gavin Blackwell, Kobe Paysauer, these are redshirt freshmen, JJ Jones, sophomore. I mean, you have all these things, these parts and pieces that, what you hope they're going to be down the road, but I mean, you got to stick them in there in front of a record crowd in Boone with people hanging off the side of the mountain. You know what I mean? Like, by the way, with a guy, in Drake Maye, who's making his second start. So I mean, I think Phil Longo's got it rolling really well right now. And I think it's a credit to what they've built. I think Vip made the comment, plug and play. Isn't that what you said, Vip? I think.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He has to replace Sam Howell. He has to replace Josh Downs, or they're missing Josh Downs. It really doesn't matter with this offense. They're going to be a top 25 offense. Somebody made the comment to me, if your plug and play option is Drake Maye. I mean, that's a good point, but at the same time, who's coaching Drake Maye? Like if you're a Carolina fan and you're wasting any breath complaining about this Carolina offense and complaining about the production you've gotten from Phil Longo, you're wasting your breath at this point. But Tommy, I wrote down the 2 messages that I would have if I was both coordinators. I came prepared. Coach Chizik, I think Coach Chizik is highlighting that middle portion of the game and showing the defense how close they are, because right now the defense is hearing about how bad they are, how bad the fourth quarter was, how they're 112th in the country in total defense compared to an offense that is 7th. And the defense right now understands that they're the thing that's kind of holding this team back from taking that next step as a program. So I think a lot of the messaging that you're going to get from Coach Chizik is how close the defense is. Now he's going to show them, where they went wrong and how to correct what they did. But for the most part, I think if you're him, you're emphasizing that if you guys listen and you trust what my scheme is doing, because it's not a scheme problem. If you trust the scheme, he's going to put you in positions to succeed. We saw it in 2015. We saw it in 2016 that this, even with his Ben don't break defense, it should be a defense that gets you in the top half of the country. And like I said in the preseason prediction pod, that's really all Carolina should be hoping for. I think the top 25 defense hope was always going to be a pipe dream when you're coming from a defense that was in the hundreds. And then Phil Longo's offense Phil Longo's message is, hey, we might need to score 60 again, so be ready.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, boys, we get to score 60 again. Let's go. I mean, how much more fun can that be?
I think that's what he's doing. I think he's getting this team prepared to win the shootouts.
And I'll say shout out to Buck Sanders. He said on that preseason prediction pod that there'd be more than one shootout, quite a few shootouts. And I was like, nah, they won't have. I bought that Kool-Aid and drank it and did not believe that. I still can't get over the game Saturday. Go ahead, Adam.
No, you and me both, Tommy. You and me both. I mean,
it's bizarre. It felt like I was watching old Pac-12 After Dark or something.
By the way, I was the only one. I was the only one to pick App State, so I'm the first loser of the preseason prediction pod. But I would counter. Was I really wrong? Because when you look at that game, I mean, I think I had the right idea by picking App State.
Yeah. If you bet that over, they could have played the fourth quarter and you would have won the over.
I want to say for all the Carolina fans that are, ripping their eyes out watching that defense, I just want to put it in perspective and say you could be watching Iowa football. And if you watch that game 7-3 against South Dakota State, South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits, they win 7-3. That 7's not a touchdown. It's a field goal and 2 safeties. So I will take 63 over 61 if I'm Carolina over a 7-3 punt fest any day of the week.
Yeah, and the 2 safeties were legitimate safeties.
Yeah.
They punted like from the South Dakota 37 and pinned them deep and then got a safety on them. So, yeah, that's
I watched that game on the highlights. I subjected myself to watching the condensed version of that game, and I knew 2 safeties were coming, and every South Dakota State drive started inside the 5-yard line. I'm like, oh, here it comes. And they'll get like 3 yards punt from the punter. His heels are in the end zone. And I was like, wow, the safeties just aren't coming. And then eventually they did come, but Iowa's defense had a chance to get even more safeties in that game.
That's unbelievable, by the way. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I would not watch football. If my only option was watch Iowa football or not watch football at all, I'll find something else to do with my time.
Speaking of next football, Adam, I take it you're going down to Georgia State. Just give us a preview of what you got coming this week for the Inside Carolina folks. And how much are you looking forward to going to a reconfigured Turner Field to see Georgia State?
When you said Georgia State, I was saying it just a few minutes ago to my family members who probably don't give a crap. But how does that work? It was Turner Field. They've reconfigured it. It's a seating capacity of 25,000 now, is what it says.
Looks like they just blew out the left field wall and made the field. I don't know.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean Georgia State. I said last week that Carolina would beat App State 34-31. So I was just a little bit off. I was close in one way, but not close at all in another. I've got the Tar Heels beating Georgia State 48-27 in hot Atlanta this weekend. 48-27. Johnny Bauman, mark that down. I don't know. You don't have to, but
it's marked.
Yeah. It is forever enshrined in this podcast.
While we were losing our minds in Boone, trying to make sense of, I can't tell you how many times I looked at Ross and said, all right, let's take stock of what happens. We're trying to actually mentally understand it. You want to talk about a difficult assignment, getting out that story at the buzzer. Anyway, Georgia State acquitted itself pretty well against South Carolina. They lost 35-14 last week in Columbia. But they outgained South Carolina. They gave up 2 special teams touchdowns. I believe they led the game at one point, like 14-12 or some kind of funky score. I could be wrong about that, but I know they outgained them. And, they've been to 3 straight bowls. They've won 2 straight bowls. I do think UNC will win the game convincingly, but that's a pretty good program down there. And somebody made the comments over here, but these fans know what they're talking about, or our loyal supporters know what they're talking about. It's kind of an App State light. You have Sean Elliott as the coach of Georgia State. He spent a long time as an App State assistant coach back in the Jerry Moore FCS glory days, Armani Edwards. Sean Clark played on the teams that Sean Elliott coached. Sean Clark is the App State coach. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's Mac said it, Mac can sell you anything. Mac said we were the biggest game in the history of App State football in terms of a home game. Now we're going to be the biggest game in the history of Georgia State because they've never had a Power 5 come down there and play a game at their place. And I think someone asked the question about, how do these games get on the schedule? I believe what I heard was that this was sort of a Larry Fedora concoction where he wanted to go get a game in Atlanta, for recruiting purposes. I think that's what sort of the whole thought process was behind putting it's a home and home with Georgia State. So it's not like it's a 2-for-1 where App comes back to Chapel Hill next year. It's just a home and home. And this is the end of that series. So
North Carolina does have 13 players from Georgia on its roster. So maybe a little bit of a homecoming game for some on the roster.
Absolutely. Vip, and somebody mentioned Turner Field was Olympic Stadium.
Right.
And then a baseball stadium, and now it's a football stadium. That's a lot of renovation costs. Vip, on Sunday morning when I do the day after podcast with Jason Staples and Buck Sanders, what am I talking about after this Georgia State Carolina game?
If I had to guess, it's going to be a close game. The line opened up at 9. It's down to 7, and that's entirely due to the fact that nobody thinks Carolina's defense can stop a team, even if they can't throw the ball consistently, because North Carolina's defense has had the tendency to make quarterbacks look significantly better in games against the Tar Heels. But I think you're still talking about a North Carolina win on Sunday. I can't see it being close. The same team North Carolina played last year. They beat them pretty bad, but I remember my biggest takeaway from that game was with the defense and being like, if Georgia State had a quarterback that could throw and could be accurate, that game was a lot closer than the final score indicated. But I still don't see them having enough of a talent advantage to catch Carolina. Shout out my man Quinshad Davis, coaching receivers there.
Right.
Love Quinshad. It's going to be cool to see him on the sidelines coaching against North Carolina, and I know that's going to be a pretty big moment for him.
It was a 24 to clarify what you're saying. It was a 24-10 UNC lead over Georgia State in the third quarter last year. 2-score game, and then Carolina broke it open. I think 159-27. Sam Howell ran wild that day. That was one of those first days where it's like, wow.
You get scoot.
Right, yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was a 2-score game in the third quarter before they broke it open last year in Keenan.
John B, we used to, and Adam, you're gonna have to start doing this. We used to have a Greg Barnes stat of the week. John, I'll let you come in with one now that you're paying attention to. Adam, your homework for next week is a random stat. Every week we do these.
I can do that.
Can I have a stat maybe? I could pull up a stat too.
All right, John, you give us yours. We'll go around the table. I've got no stats.
My stat that I'm keeping an eye on, Chase Bryce had 43 dropbacks, and UNC blitzed 4 times, according to Pro Football Focus. So I'm keeping an eye on that number against Georgia State. I know they're a run-heavy offense, but we're expecting a shootout. They're probably going to be passing the ball more. Will UNC bring more pressure and get more pressure on Georgia State's quarterback? That's what I'm keeping an eye on this Saturday.
Georgia State's quarterback was what, 7 for 29 against South Carolina?
Something like that.
Vip, what's your stat?
My stat is Drake Maye's QBR, 93.7. It is 6th in the Power 5, 1st in the ACC. You look at the list of the who's in the ACC. A lot of people expected this to be a pretty good year for the quarterbacks in the ACC. It's Drake Maye leading the way at 1, Jordan Travis at 2, Riley Leonard coming out of nowhere at 3 in that destruction of Temple. And then I'm just saying there's a couple of guys that were preseason picks for down I-40 in Raleigh checking in at 11th. So 36.8 QBR for the quarterback in Raleigh, 93.7 for Drake Maye. So it looks like Carolina's got a good one. And got to give credit to Jason Staples. Jason was the leader in that, saying that Carolina had nothing to be worried about at the quarterback position. And he believed that at the end of the year, Drake Maye was going to be in the conversation for all ACC honors. And it's looking like it's early, but Drake Maye looks pretty good. And I think North Carolina's in a better quarterback spot than a lot of teams. I think Clemson would trade Drake Maye for DJ right now if they could.
Oh, yeah. I think Klubnik will be the quarterback. Look, my stat of the day, Darren Granger, Georgia State passing against South Carolina, 7 for 29, 111 yards, 3.8 yards per completion, 1 touch, 1 INT, 47.4. Are we going over-under on that on Saturday? We'll see what happens. It'll be an interesting game. I think Carolina wins the game. We'll talk more about it with Greg Barnes and Jason Staples on Thursday on the Game Plan Podcast Live, and then Joey Powell and myself in studio, WCHL on Inside Carolina Live. Adam, you're calling in, so get down to Atlanta.
I've got my stat. Do you want my stat?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead and bring us one. I was going to give you a week.
I mean, I get accused of taking too many notes. Let's see. Where is it? I just lost it. Okay. We know 9 touchdown passes for Drake Maye through the first 2 games of the season. No one has done that. In the ACC, no one has done that. That's not been done since 2000. So, and I think there's another one that the only ACC player that has been responsible for more touchdowns through his team's first 2 games of a season is Lamar Jackson. I don't know if you've heard of him. So
one of those games was Carolina, wasn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Those would be 2 of mine. Also, shout out my guy John Thorpe over here with the Burlington Cummings reference. I love it. My heart is full, John Thorpe, wherever you might be. I love the reference. Thank you very much. I don't know if that was for me or not, but I definitely got Burlington Cummings over there in the comments.
Hey, if Chucky Burnett was playing for Cummings, or what was it, Daniel Davis, Georgia Tech quarterback, didn't he play
Donnie
for Cummings?
Davis. You got
Donnie
Chucky Burnett, right? Yeah.
But interesting. Let me ask you a question, Vip, and then we got to go. I'm trying to run it out to 10 o'clock since that's our hour time limit. But Terrell Conley hit me up on Twitter, Vip, and said over under Drake Maye touchdowns 40. Now, we had it at 30 on the podcast, and I went over. Do we need to up that number by 10, or is it still too early for that?
Was it 40 passing or 40 total?
40 total.
If I had to right now, I would take the over. He's a lot better of a running threat than I thought, where he can kind of get some of those touchdowns back from the running backs. His ability to distribute the ball, he's not really targeting in on anybody, but I would go over. He's on a pace that we really haven't seen before. It's going to be interesting to see once you get to conference play and once teams start to get more tape on him. But with his ability to see over the line at 6'4" and identify what pressures are coming, he's a true student of the game, as Phil Longo says. But I think Drake Maye is a guy who, when defenses try to get a step ahead, he always has that extra step on them.
Yeah, listen to Drake when he talks about growing up with 2 older brothers that whipped his tail daily and made him as tough as he is now. If you're an older brother, go beat your little brother up. And
he might turn into Drake Maye. Yeah,
he might be Drake Maye one day.
My little brother's 6'7".
Your little brother's 6'7".
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So,
what happened?
I'm the run at 6'3", 6'3" run of the family.
I would kill to be a 6'3" run.
He's a mountain to climb, but I there's no problem taking him.
Hey,
Yeah,
Adam, real quick before we get out of here. Adam, how many times did you rewrite your story on Saturday? I know you've got it ready to go when the clock is done.
You know what? I mean, I actually have a funny story about that. The way you said that, John, was if you all remember the NCAA tournament in basketball, and you remember the game that UNC beat Baylor. I don't know if you remember the details of that game, of how they were blowing them out. And, anyway, I got into the post game that day in Fort Worth, Texas. Obviously, my computer in my lap, hammering away. And Armando Baycott comes in, looks directly right at me. I guess because I was probably looked like death, and he's like, "How many times you done rewrote that story?" And I was like, 4 times, I think, Armando. He was making fun of me. But John, to answer your question, when it was 41-21, I had it in a very good place. Everything was so good. Like, it might not have been the best written story ever, but it was done. It was ready. It was instant analysis. UNC answers challenge at App State. You just talk about, Drake Maye's first start on the road, the whole thing, record crowd. And then, I lost, the game lost its grip on reality, and I lost my grip on the instant analysis. And I'm moving stuff up and down and all around. I thought when they App lined up to go for 2, I'm like, geez, this might be a loss. You're writing about a win, I don't know. That's why we get paid the medium-sized bucks, I guess.
The medium-sized bucks. Y'all do the like Slagle said, best in the business, Inside Carolina and InsideCarolina.com. Taylor Vippolis, Adam Smith, John Bauman. I'm just the host, Tommy Ashley. It's been On the Beat Live every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock. Somebody will be here. Ross Martin better be here next week and join us up. But if not, Vip will slide in.
Wally Pitt.
I'm gone next week, so someone has to slide in for me. Someone has to take the producer mantle.
Okay, maybe I'll dust Gregory Hall off or something. Yeah, or have to figure out how to do this. Last time I tried to do it live, it did not go over well. Maybe it'll be better. Guys, it's always been a pleasure. Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com are our sponsors. Join us, like I said, Inside Carolina on the web. Check out all the great content from all these guys and join us on Thursday night live on the Game Plan.